I'm Riley, and I was the photographer.
I'm Andrew, and I was the physician.
I'm Jake, I was the marathon runner.
I'm Morgan, I was the leader.
I'm Lindsay, I was the environmentalist.
Okay. Who's starting?
I don't know. So the first day we met, we got everyone's emails and phone numbers so that we could keep in contact with everyone. We created a group message so that we could text people since we all have different schedules and we were trying to figure out our meeting times and when everyone was available. Technology helped us out because we were able to contact people through email and texting so that we could figure out when everyone was available to talk or to meet.
And then also with technology, we used Google Docs because it allowed everyone to share their writing, and it helps with making the agenda and figuring out meetings and stuff.
Well, like when people are like can't get on the Google Docs, so like we did text message mostly, and then like so like everybody can keep up at least like one or two things like at a time. So like it's really helpful.
And I feel like people were more responsive to text messaging just because it's easier to text people than it is to email them back.
It's like you don't check your email like
Every
every second thing. But
Yeah.
like text message, like the sound beep up, you just take a look.
Your phone's always in your hand.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
it's easier. And Shannon, you're taking 18 units, so it's so hard to find like more than an hour of time that you had
True,
in
like
class.
I have like Monday class ends at 7 and Tuesdays, Thursdays class is at 5, so it's like difficult for us to set up like a time like face to face. But like before all the meetings we did like text message and Google Docs. It really helps.
Yeah.
So one of the first things we talked about in the group messages were how we all did so bad on the writing assignment for the movie like analysis response, and honestly that was kind of good for our group because it kind of brought us together because we felt comfortable with each other now that we all had something in common. Like we all did really bad on this and we were kind of embarrassed about it, but now seeing that everyone in the group didn't do too well, that allowed us to kind of feel comfortable in our group setting, which really helped our group thrive in overcoming tough situations and getting everyone's ideas out because no one really felt like they had to hide anything and were uncomfortable.
I thought our group worked really well together, but there were a few problems. A few people were late coming to do the simulation. I was a few minutes late, and then Jake was a couple minutes late, but we all got there in time and got it done. And then we also had to reschedule because of the machete man and the shooting confusion. So that was confusing and scary for all of us.
Because we were supposed to meet on campus and then we didn't feel safe, so then we had to reschedule when we were gonna meet up and do stuff.
Because we didn't want to get shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Or shot.
And then we also, again, just had like a lot of scheduling conflicts because we're all taking a ton of different classes. So, and like we all have extracurriculars too, so it's hard for us to all meet together.
So each person individually had to basically lay out their schedule so we could figure out a perfect time to meet, which was another thing that our group solved was the scheduling conflicts. So that was nice.
overcame that.
Good work, guys.
Okay. I feel like emotional intelligence was pretty prominent within our group discussion because we were all able to recognize when people were struggling and had like something that was wrong with their like person and during the simulation. Like when you, Lindsay, were really sick in the very beginning when we moved to the second base camp and you were the only one that was sick. And then we all like recognized and like tried to discuss on like how we could fix that. And then when we realized that I had to stay at 2 different base camps for 2 consecutive days, and then you had to stay at one for 2 consecutive days, and then we only had 6 days to get to the top, so like we had to like figure out who was gonna get the points and who wasn't, and like not that there wasn't one way for like both of us to get all of our points. So I felt like that was like one of the really hard parts of the simulation.
Yeah, going off what Riley just talked about, I feel like open and effective communication was essential to the decision-making process. It was important that we like talked to other people and heard what they needed and during the simulation. We had to make sure everyone was healthy and could make it up to the summit so we could get the points that we needed. But yeah, let's see what else. We need to make sure everyone's voice is heard so that no one's being left out in the decisions that we need to make for the group and individually.
Yeah, relating back to the activity we did in class where Bill had us move seats, and like the dynamic of the group changes based on where you're sitting in the group. I would say that Morgan was the group leader and she helped us work very efficiently. And during all of our meetings and simulations, we sat in a circle, but we were all able to give our input and talk about our own ideas, and we were all on the same page, like using interaction design, so we were all able to give our input and talk about our ideas and opinions.
Yeah, and being the leader, I felt like some of the norms that were expected of me was that people were looking to me as to what decisions to make, and I would say like what my things were on the computer, and then everyone would say what their things were, so like their health, what they needed. So I think just like, again, open and effective communication so that everyone knew what was going on with each person's role within the group, so that we could all make it up to the summit was important.
And as far as the group setting, we all had expectations for each other, expectations to reply to group messages, to meet at a certain time, for everyone to contribute to the group, and also one of our critical moments we had was for my circumstances, I needed more oxygen. I actually needed than the group would have expected, and I had to decide whether I was going to keep that from the group and go on and risk my life and risk the entire failure of the group, or tell everyone, and that would also risk my accomplishments and my goal in getting to the top of the mountain, because then the leader could actually push me back and make me go back down to base camp. So that was one of the critical moments, and I actually decided to tell the leader and let everyone in the group and let everyone know what was going on with my situation, that I needed more oxygen, so that the whole group was on the same page and that I wasn't leaving anything out. And that actually ended up working out in the end, because we were able to work together to get through it.
And then there was also some like social construction issues, just because as the physician, I was in charge of handing out all of the medicine and like inhalers to everyone, but it was just a shock to go from one base camp to the other, and like originally everyone was fine at base camp, and then when we got to camp number 2, Lindsay was like in critical condition, and I didn't know what to do just because I was kind of unaware of like how to distribute the inhaler, like what kind of medicine she needed. So it was definitely hard to communicate just through the computers, but then also just like trying to give her the medicine and then making sure that everyone made it to the top okay.
Well, like overall with the communication in the group, like me as an observer, I see that like Morgan and like with the rest of the team, they communicate very well, because like Andrew, she's like the physician, like with like every camp you guys arrive, like she had to ask how's your critical like health, like it's either at weak or at risk. Like I know that like I think it's camp 0, camp 4. You were like low risk, right?
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, so it was like really hard for Andrew to give out so the hill, like to whom, or to save it for Lindsay, since Lindsay has like the asthma part.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, like, and then the overall communication was like everyone, it wasn't very well, like being the observer cannot get involved, but like watching everybody like communicate and solve the problems is like watching like a play.
So for every problem we had in the simulation, whether relating to health, oxygen, or time on getting on the mountain, our leader would start with basically explaining what was the problem, and then we would go to each individual person and evaluate everyone's situation to get an understanding of what we needed to do, where the help was needed. So for example, Lindsay was super sick in the beginning. She was in critical condition. So we had to kind of put more time and energy towards her for the people that were healthy. So that was kind of how we communicated to solve those problems and make our decisions.
And then even though like we didn't all make it to the top of the mountain, like I had to get rescued, it was clear that we all really communicated well with each other just by like again like the interactive design of where we were all sitting and having a good group leader and just making sure that everyone's voices were heard.
Yeah, going off of what you guys said, like obviously I felt bad because I was in critical condition, but we struggled with like figuring out the inhaler. Like we didn't know if you had to drag it or if I just immediately got it, so that was confusing, but I thought it worked well and we all figured it out eventually.
And lastly, I think everything we keep talking about and mentioning in this video is how we had good communication as a team and as a group. And I think that goes back to the very beginning when we first formulated our group and we started texting each other and stuff. When we felt comfortable, that's when it really felt like it opened up for everyone to be able to get their ideas across and everyone to be heard. And that really helped our group strive and push through. I don't know. Sure.
I think overall our simulation went really well, even though, we didn't get the best score and not everyone made it to the top and some people had to get rescued and everyone got sick. But I mean, we all came together and
No one died.
pushed through. Yeah, no one died.
Yeah.
That's important. But we did a really good job, I think, overall.
But at least like we are tied together, like not like being like separate all the time. Like right now we're like as a group, not individuals.
Yeah, because when we were watching like the example videos before we filmed this, some groups were talking about like all the problems that they were facing, but like I felt like we actually all communicated really well compared to a lot of the groups that we like witnessed on the other videos.
Yeah.
So like we got along great.
Good job.
We did it.
Nice.